All right, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Oliver Blue, and I am here, and I'm delighted to be here. And thank you so much for joining in for today's lesson. And I'm here as your temporary guide, and it gives me great pleasure to be sitting in this seat, learning along with you and providing these workbook lessons, these additional resources to go along with the teachings out of A Course in Miracles, out of the workbook session. And we are on day 95, lesson 95, taking our 95th step up the ladder, up this invisible ladder on which the ego and its illusions let us down. And these lessons serve as reminders for us each day, reminding us of who we are and what the truth is and what reality is. And so, Truly Foundation, which is the sponsor of these um, commentaries, is a nonprofit organization that was founded by myself and my beautiful wife. And this was all done for the purpose of sharing advanced teachings in spirituality to help all of us, help all humanity uh, to come to grips with what is real, which cannot be threatened, and to recognize that that which is unreal does not exist. And as we go through this process, this mind training process, our goal is peace. Therein us embracing these realities, we will experience the peace of God. Not read about it, not talk about it, but actually have a direct experience of the peace that we are. One previous lesson said that light and joy and peace abides or rest in us. Well, that is a truth reality, and it's always true, and it never changes. But that reality happens, that reality is experienced when there is a um, a integration of that which seems to be separated with that which is one. And so that's why we are in this exercise of uh, having our minds transformed and renewed, so that that which appear to be separate can reunite with its true self. And so the mind is what needs training. The mind is what needs discipline. The mind is what needs to um, create new paradigms, new habits, learn how to remain focused on that which is true. And so it takes discipline, it takes exercise, it takes work. And that's what we're doing each and every day as we are presented with new ideas about the truth and the reality of who we are. And so it is it's the daily work. In the biblications, it says what? Work out your salvation. So it takes an effort. It takes a study. It takes a commitment in order to give ourselves and our energy and our time and attention over to the light. It takes an effort. Why? Because we have spent many years training ourselves to giving our focus and attention over to the darkness. So it takes effort. And so that's why these lessons appear to be somewhat repetitious in terms of the messaging. Like I said, this whole 1,000 pages that's in this book, A Course in Miracles, can be wrapped up in 3 small sentences. But because the mind that thought it's separated from its source has a strong commitment and a strong propensity to hold on to the dreams and the fantasies and the wild imaginings of being separate. And so it needs to be what? It needs to be disciplined and trained, and that's what we're doing in these exercises. So each day we get one idea to focus on for today. And we have found these to be mighty helpful. We have found some of these ideas, like I said, to be startling. Like, oh, is that really true about me? We have found some of these ideas to be almost unbelievable, or at least we resist them. Why? Because these ideas are introducing something that is causing us to consider what we have known. A lot of these ideas, or most of these ideas, are very metaphysical, meaning causing us to think beyond that which is physical, causing us to use and to strengthen other capacities that we have, like our imagination, our intuition, our reasoning, our memory, our perception. So it's causing us to use those invisible capacities that we all have, causing us to really develop such concepts as meditation, contemplation, and to look inward for self-inquiry. So it really having an effect that we're really looking so much deeper into who we are and our association with one another, and our relationship with our Creator. These exercises are, asking us and suggesting to us that we spend a certain amount of time during the day turning away from all of the wranglings of the world, all of the raucous shrieking that's in the world, all of that's in the world that is making demand upon our time and our attention and our energy and our resources all day long. All day long in this world of separation, there's always an attempt. It's like someone always knocking on your door and say, hey, over here, give me your attention. And it comes in so many different forms. It's like the world is after your time and your attention. It's after your resources. It's after your allegiance. There's so many ways that we're being pulled at to say, hey, give me your Give me your ear. Give me your eyes. And so with all the plethora of pulls that's coming our way, how do we remain balanced? How do we remain peaceful? How do we remain restful? How do we move away from this world of anxiety, this world of fear, this world that is so fast-paced and moving with no end in sight? How do we navigate this and experience the peace, the light, and the joy that we are? How can we navigate this in happiness? And so we're always looking for new ways to find peace and happiness. And we're always looking outside of ourselves for that. Well, the Course in Miracles, the workbook lessons are designed for you to look where those things are actually at, where God put them. They're inside of you. And when I say inside, I'm not talking about inside what we call this body. That's not where they are. If you cut this body up, you won't find them in there. All you're going to just find is blood and tissue and sinew and muscle. That's what you're going to find in there. Brain, bones. That's not where these invisible realities exist. Well, Oliver, you said, well, where did it exist? If they don't, are they in the air? If they're not inside of my body, where are they? Are they inside of my, where are they? When we say inside, are they in my brain? And I would say they are not there. They're in you, the invisible you, the you that existed before you was formed in your mother's womb, which has been described as the one self or the one being that we call what most of the world label as God, to denote this supreme being that exists, that is responsible for the creation of all things. And so when I talk about these things like happiness and joy and peace and light and fulfillment and contentment and bliss and joyfulness and certainty and assurance and absoluteness, these are the things, in light, these are the things that we are in eternity in heaven. These things are who we are. And you say, well, Oliver, how can I locate them? And I say, well, they're in you. You say, well, what do you mean? Are they in this physical body? I said, no, they're not in the physical body, because you're not in the physical body. Even the physical body can't contain you. So you are who we really are is we're infinite. There's no beginning and there's no end to us. We're everywhere present. And surely we can't be changed. We already had that talk 2 or 3 times, that we are unalterable. We can't be changed. We remain what? We remain as God created us. How did he create us? And that's what we're talking about. The real self that we are, which we call the real you. So if there's a real you, there can only be a real you. The implication is what there's a false you that we have given a lot of credence to, and that false you is what limited us in the experience of the love that we are, or the love that we share. And we all desire love, joy, and peace and happiness. And so when I say, well, those things are part of your nature. Well, what does nature mean? Or I say it's an essential part of you. Well, what do you mean essential? And what I'm saying is that if we could, by illustration, melt us down, melt who you are down, or strip us down to our very core self, what we will find at the core of ourself, or at our nature, would be these attributes that I'm talking about. And they are formless in their nature. They are timeless in their nature. Meaning what? These, who we are, is before time and form. We are eternal beings. And I know that's so mind-boggling to the natural mind. To the natural mind, it's mind-boggling. Why? Because the natural mind only knows what it knows what naturally. It only knows what it has experienced. So it's a very limited. So it has a very limited perception. But all that the mind knows is not all there is to know. Just like in your life, all that you have experienced is not all there is to experience. It's just what you have experienced. So it's very limited. It's not all encompassing. What you know is not all encompassing. It's just the content of your experience. And the content of your experience could be a little different than the content of my experience or the next person's experience. And so what happens is we find ourselves getting so caught up into our experiences as in these bodies as a human that we lose sight, because we turn our focus away from our nature, our true nature, and we end up making a self out of our experience, and then we call it me or I. And we believe that's who we are, but that's not who we are. That is what we have made of ourselves. That's a concept that we have made of ourselves based on experience and based on what? Based on conditioning. We talked about this again on yesterday. So this is kind of a review because it's so important in the knowing of ourselves. And all these lessons that we are engaged in is the design for us to come to know ourselves. And not just to know about the history of our time here in time and space. That's not the self. That's just the activities and the events and the experiences that we chose to have. It's called our story or our history, our story, our history, which is what has happened on this lineal timeline from birth until this moment and all the activities in between. That's our history or his story. But it's not who we are. And when we confuse our history with our identity, then that results in the depression and the fear that and the limited perception and the false idea about our true reality and who we are gets suppressed under the content of our activities, and to the point that we lose our true identity, and we begin to look at a self-made self that has no foundation under it. And therein lies the anxiety. Therein lies the lack of peace. Therein lies the search for happiness. Therein lies the absence of purpose. And so that's why these lessons are so incredibly important to all of us. And I am so glad that you made the choice to continue to show up day in and day out to the groups that I'm leading. But I have decided to, again, share a lot of these lessons, not all of them, but a lot of them out in my social platforms, because I believe that they're vitally important for all humanity. And so you may be hearing some out there and not seeing and having access to others. But you can follow us on Truly Foundation YouTube channel. And if you keep up with us, you have access to all of them. So you can go to YouTube. Truly Foundation is our channel, and that's where all of these lessons are published each day. So this is day 95. This is a live recording on that YouTube channel, but you can go back and watch the replays, and I only keep them up for a certain amount of time. So if you want to continue or begin to start, including these lessons into your day, that's how you can access them. It doesn't cost you anything, just your time. So today's lesson, Workbook lesson 95. This is another one of these I am lessons. And anytime the word I am is used, especially at the beginning of a statement, that is a point of reference that where we're being directed is to our what? It's directing us directly back to our what? Back to our true self. Because when the words I am are used in these lessons, it is a direct notation to the one self, the true self that we are, or the one self that God created. That's what the reference is. I am. And it's so natural for you during your day to utilize that I am reference. But where we have erred or made mistakes in the use of this is when we use this I am reference to make note of a false self. That we made versus the true self that God made as the I am. And so we take the true self acknowledgement that God made, the I am, and we say, and we use it to miscreate. We say, I am sick, I am sad, I am lonely, I am hurt, I'm not worthy, I am confused. I am short, I am fat, I'm not worthy. So we take the I am, which is so quite natural. We say this term more than any other acknowledgement in our languaging. We say it more often in a day than anything else that we say. I am this, I am that. And the reason we do that, because it's a part of our eternal nature. But because we have we have covered up our true I am, we use it to support the false self that we make. I am black, I am white, I am female, I am male, I'm American, I'm Jewish, I'm Christian, I'm Buddhist, I'm Republican, I am Democrat, I am, for this, I am for that. And this is how the ego has used our own power against us to get us to speak against the truth of who we are. It's all built into the system, and we have played into it, not having no awareness of what we're doing. And so when we say I am this and I am that, I am broke, I am incapable, I am so unlucky, all of the I ams that we say. I can't do this, I am or I can't, that's part of it too. All this all these habits and paradigms that we create as a result of really, totally forgetting the I am that we are. I am as God created me. And how did God create us? He didn't create us in scarcity or in fear or in lack. He didn't create us without access to all the intelligent, infinite intelligence that's available. He created us in light and in joy and happiness and peace. All these are part of our nature. But we're not practiced up. We don't practice in using our choice to speak to amplify those things. We're more apt to use it to amplify the false self that we've made. Thus, we keep reinforcing and further burying our true nature to the point that we can't even find it. And we get so depressed, so filled with anxiety, so worried about, what's taking place in the world. We become so worried about whether we're going to have enough, whether we are enough, so afraid that someone's going to walk out of our life, so afraid that someone's going to walk into our life. To where every day is like we're always trying to navigate and protect our body from what's coming around, what's coming around the bend, what's coming around the corner. That's a tiring way to live. That's an exhausted way to live. There's a better way. And the course is helping us find that better way. And so I hope this explanation helps in seeing the value of what we're doing, seeing the value of you investing your time and your attention to focus on these workbook lesson studies. And if not this, something else, just, this is just one of many. This is just one of thousands of resources that have been provided for us. God has, from day one, found ways to get revelation and truth into the awareness of mankind in so many ways. The spirit of truth is here in all the earth, everywhere presence. If we would but wake up, if we would but look beyond what the eyes can see and begin to use our sixth sense, okay, to realize that the memory of God is in this world with us in the form of the memory of who God is, the memory of who we are. There's a spirit here that is whole and complete and that knows all things, that is here at our beck and call, that is with each one of us, there to help us to navigate the maze of a human life. It's part of your nature. It's part of who you are. There's a voice in you that speaks for God. There's a voice. There's a spirit that is united with you. That's not separate from you, but that's united with you. And it's a whole spirit. It's a complete spirit. Traditionally, it's called what? The Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is not something separate and apart from you, but it's who you are and your reality. It's a whole and complete spirit. That's not separate and apart from you, but it's a part of who you are. It's a part of the self that we're talking about. That self that was known prior to you being conformed or formed in your mother's womb. That self that is timeless and formless. So, if I can just talk to you just in a regular level without you losing you in, some of the terminology, I want to do that. Because if it's not as so simple, if what I'm saying is too complicated, then I need to take a different approach. I want these messages to be as simple as saying white is white and black is black. No need for interpretation. So when I say the I am, or the real you, or the one self, I want there to be a clear understanding of what is being shared here. That there is a you, there is an I and a you. That it's not separate, but united as one. There's only the one self when I explain it that way. That there's only one self. There's only one being. There's not many beings, separate beings, but there's only the one. And we all share or have our life in that one being. That's our reality. And within that shared being, God is included. And all of life is included. So we all get our what? Consciousness and awareness from the one source. So if that be the case, it would make no sense at all for within that one source to be what? Dividing among itself, or warring and fighting among itself. I love the way Jesus put it. He said that what? A house divided, what? It cannot stand. A house divided cannot stand. It will what? Self-destruct. So when we look out in the physical world, in the world that we made, not the world that God created, but the world that we made, we see example after example of that. That humanity, in all of its systems that it has what created, that it has made, built on the idea of separation. That division and separation is built within the system, so it has to divide. And we see that happening. We see things build up and it what falls down. Why? Because it's not built on the foundation of truth. It's not built on the foundation of this one shared being. It's not built on the foundation of equality. It may look good or sound good, but in its functioning, its true nature comes out. Its prejudices come out. Its inequalities come out. Its separation come out. Its fear and controlling nature comes out. And so what? It's divided among itself. We've seen it at every level. We've seen it at the what? Individual level. We've seen it at the what? Family level. We've seen it at the community level. We've seen it at the level of the state or the level of the nation. We've seen it on the international and global level. Where time and time and time again, where things fall apart from within, even to the point that it gets to the point that guns are drawn and guns are used. And when I say gun, I'm not talking guns literally, but I am too. But I'm talking about what's drawn is what? This fear of one another, this division of one another. It is said that in our time that there's never been so much polarization among like one nation within the nation that I live in called the United States. They say that it's never been as polarized, meaning what? It's never been as divided. And what did they say? What did Jesus say about a house divided? He said, well, it can't stand. It's unstable. And thus we see 2022 and all the wranglings in the world. And you can't fix that by what? Trying to correct the effects of that. No, you have to go to the source of the problem. And what is this source? And we've learned here that there's only one problem, and that is our belief in separation. We believe that we're separate. We believe that we're these individual self-made selves. We believe that there's a gulf between us and our Creator. We believe that we're bodies. Some believe that there's somebody. Some of the bodies believe that they're what? Nobody. And so you have all this, mismatch. All this what? Tremendous division and separation that is at the root of all of it. And we're trying to find solutions out in the effects of it, never to be found. Solution is in the problem. If the problem is what? Separation, then the solution is what? Oneness. There is no separation. You can't serve two ideas. We can only serve, like Jesus said, no man can serve two masters. He will either love the one and hate the other. We can't serve two selves. We're only one self. That's the title of our message today. I am one self. I am, see, I am referring to what? Our timeless, formless self. We're one self, one shared self. We cannot be committed to two selves. We can't be duplicitous, meaning duality. That's the house divided. And so personally, we are unstable. In the families, there's instability. In the community, what? Instability. In the states, there's instability. In the nation, there's instability. Among international relations, there's what? Huge instability. And we think the cause has to do with what? The activities and the events and the history. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the way we think, the way we perceive, who we think we are. And so these lessons are designed to straighten us out. But it happens one person at a time. It's happening with us. So that we can be in it, and so that we can be used. What? So that we can be used. Once we get ourselves in balance, we can be used to bring balance to the world around us. So it's for us to do just like our Father, to share or extend it. That's why he describes us as light. Light what? Light illuminates or extends. See? So all can see? We don't take the light, like Jesus said, and put a bushel on top of it. No, we put it on a candlestick. The candlestick has to do with the way we show up in the world. How do we show up every day? How do we show up in the world? How are we thinking? What are we perceiving? So today's lesson, I am one self. One self. If nothing else that we can learn in these lessons is the reality of oneness. That is at the core of everything that is real. It is in the center of life. Oneness. And so he says, I am one self. United with my Creator. So don't get it mixed up. You're not talking about one individual self. That's not what we're talking about. But we're talking about the one shared self, that we all share this one being, this one life. Just like we all share the same air, we all share the same planet. That's a metaphor. This planet is not for one person or one group, even though we think that way, or one nation. But we share in the domain of this planet. And so that concept of sharing, meaning that we share all the one source, but out of that sharing, there are many expressions, just like a diamond. Diamond has many facets, many colors, multiple cuts, levels of clarity. But it's one diamond. And so that's a metaphor for the one self that we are, that we share with God. God is not a separate being. God is our being. God is our reality. We share the same being that God is. And we are that part of us that seemingly broke apart from the one part and went off on his own. The prodigal son story is a metaphor for that. That's why I always continue to use these analogies to explain these simple, universal truths and ideas. I'll use the sun. I'll use the ocean. I'll use the things in creation to be able to help simplify and explain to us these very important universal ideas. So we can learn these things without a book. We can look out into creation. In creation, if we focused our attention and really contemplated the nature of what's been created. Creation can teach us so much. Teach us the same thing that we're learning here. And it will teach us there's only one. That all life comes from the one source. So all we're saying here is very simple. We're not trying to say anything complicated. All life comes from the one source. And we are all part of that one source. We're not separate. We're not aloof. And so we represent the one source. But the one source is not divided. So we have to bring the mind into the alignment with the nature of the one source. And it's in the mind in which there appear to be a cutoff or separation. So that's why we call this mind training. So let me read just through a little bit of the idea for today. It says, today's idea accurately describes you. What's the idea? I am oneself. Big S self. Big S represent the self that God made, or the self that God created, which is himself. Because in God's idea of creation, he just extends himself. And he calls that extension I am. He calls that extension creation. So what God creates, he creates himself, or like himself. So the nature of what he creates is just like himself or herself. And again, don't get caught up in the pronouns. God is not a he or her or it. God merely is undescribable. If it can be named like the Tao said, it's not the Tao. Because anytime we put a name on the Supreme, we put limitation on it, because words are limited. And so even understanding in our languaging here that we have to use something to have a conversation, or to bring us to an understanding. So words are just pointers. I'm just a temporary pointer here, sitting here. When I say I'm a teacher, I'm a temporary pointer. I'm a guide that's walking right on your side, because I am I am one with you. We're no different. I and you are one. You are my brother, my sister. There's no difference. We share the same life that we talked about. We share the same infinite intelligence. We are experiencing the same love that God is. And we said that what love is the experience of reality of God. That's what love is. It can't be defined. It can only be experienced. Even the concept of God can't be defined. It can only be experienced. And even in these forms, or even in this body of form, we can experience the reality of the Supreme, and that experience we call love. So he said, in today's idea, it accurately describes you and me as God created us. And how does it describe us? It describes us as we are one self, one shared self. And we're united with our Creator. That accurately describes us. So if anyone come up to you today and say, "Who are you?" You say, "Well, I'm oneself. I am oneself, united with my Creator." You would be completely accurate. Now they may look at you sideways a little bit, but you would be accurate. They're waiting on you to hear you say, "Well, I am John Doe, and I am a school teacher, or I am I'm an umpire, or I'm a mechanic." That's what they're expecting to hear from you. But you say, "No, no, no. Take you higher. I am oneself, united with my Creator." And see what the response you get when you say that. So that is who we are. That's an accurate description of who we are. Why? Because that's the way God created us. And He created us that way eternally, unchangeable, unalterable. It says, we are one within ourselves and one with our Creator. We are the unity of all creation. We are the unity of all creation. This accurately describes us. We are perfect. Our perfect unity makes change in us impossible. That's why it's impossible for us to be separate. Romans, in the book of Romans, in the Bible, it says there's nothing that can separate us, see, from love or from God. It's impossible. They said nothing can separate us. We are co-laced in this one being. Co-laced basically means, it's not a big word, that means we're held together by this one being. And if there's just one, there's nothing to hold together. We just are. We are what we are, never to be changed. It says, we do not accept this though. Something happened where humanity collectively rejected this reality about himself. It said, we do not accept this, and we fail to realize it must be so. What must be so? We are oneself. We fail to realize that must be so. Just look at the world around you. Look and observe yourself and observe other people. We operate from the sense of what? That there are multiple selves. And we have to protect our one self from the other selves. It says, we do not accept this only because we believe that we have changed ourselves from what God created. We believe we successfully changed ourselves. We want to maintain our individuality. We want to maintain our this personal self. And we are having this experience of being independent, separate, personal, individuated, with an ID, with the social security number, with the name, with the reputation, with the plan of our own. We believe we can do this. We believe we can be this. We believe we can make ourselves happy. And so it is in that we've put all our energy, only to find disappointment and sorrow and suffering and confusion and pain and sickness and disease or dis-ease and anxiety and worry and doubt and fear and trepidation. and we desire peace and happiness and joy and understanding and surety and certainty and security. But we're what? We're thinking what is out there in the world, and it's not. God did not place it there. And so we think we've changed ourselves. And we think we've changed God. We've made now God into our image. And so now we believe that there's a God that what? That's separate from us. We believe that there's a God that what? That is perfect, and we can't what? We can't line up with him. So we see ourselves as inferior. We see ourselves as what? Unequal. We see ourselves as ultimately this deserving of punishment for what we've done. But in reality, we haven't done anything. The Course said all we've done is what? Falling asleep, having these wild dreams, having these what? Having these fantasies, wild imaginings, and nothing really has happened. They're all illusions. And so God is saying, what? Bring your illusions back to the truth. So what? So the truth can dissolve them. So that you know that what? You are as I created you. And the search is over. Because everything you was looking for, you already had it within yourself. We see ourselves as a what? Ridiculous joke. That's what it says here. We see ourselves as a ridiculous joke on God's creation. We see ourselves as weak and vicious and ugly and sinful and miserable and beset with pain. Such is our version of ourselves, the self that we made, a self divided into many warring parts, fighting against ourselves, fighting among each other. He says that we are separate. We see ourselves as separate from the Creator, separate from God. We see ourselves tenaciously held together by what? The erratic and capricious. We see ourselves held together by an erratic and capricious Creator or Maker, which it ain't the one self. He's not talking about the real reality here. The Maker becomes ourself because we made ourselves based on a thought system of separation. So in reality, our ego self is our Creator or our Maker. It says Maker here because only God creates, and only God creates like unto himself. So this person we're describing is not what God created. It's who we have made. So it says, to which we pray. So when we pray from this perception, we're not praying to reality. We're praying to what? The one that made this mess. And if we're praying to the one that made the mess, that's why the mess can't be corrected. It said, it does not hear. What does not hear? This God now that we're praying to, it says, it does not hear our prayers, for it is death. Talking about an idol thought system of ego. It says it does not hear because it's deaf. It does not see the oneness in us, for it is blind. Darkness, in darkness, there is no sight. So we're praying to the darkness that made us. And the darkness that's made us is an idol. It's an illusion. It has no sight, has no ears to hear, and it has no wisdom to correct it. It only can plunge us into more darkness. And so it says what? It is blind. It does not understand us as the one self that we are. For it is senseless and understands nothing. So the one self that we made came from a place where there is no understanding. There is no sense of reality. And thus we have the world we made that will gun you down as soon as you turn your back. Thus we have the world we made that will starve out the children, that will starve out nations. Thus we have the world we made that is so what? Divided. A house divided cannot stand. Thus the world we made from a senseless what? From a senseless creator or from a senseless maker. It was made from the idea of separation. The world we live in. And it appears that some's doing better than others. Yes, I mean, you got all the different levels of class and all. Well, you got 3% of what? 3% of the population. 3% of the population is controlling 95% of all the resources in the world. That's the result of that maker. The haves and the have-nots. You have nations that have what? Spend more money. Spend more money on military purchases than it does on what? Feeding children, educating children. That's the kind of world that we create when we yield to that maker who's born in fear. So if you're born in fear, what? You have to protect yourself. Right now in this nation, there are more guns and ammunition in people's homes that there are in the entire world in just this one nation. Why is that? Fear. They're afraid. They don't see their brother as their brother. They see their brother as the enemy. And like one of our former Secretary of States used to say, you identify the enemy, you isolate the enemy, and you kill it. Kill or be killed. That is the evidence. That is the substance of what happens when we don't accept who we are. That's what happens when we think we've changed ourselves from who God created us to be. So today in the exercise, we're going to attempt. It says today we will attempt to be aware only of what can hear and see and what makes perfect sense. Because what we just described doesn't make perfect sense. It says we will again direct our exercises towards reaching our one self, which is united with what? With its creator. In patience and in hope, we will try again today. So in our time today of meditation and contemplation, we're going to what? We're going to focus on the idea that I am one self, united with what? My creator, because that is the truth. That has not changed. We remain as God, what created us, as one self, one shared self. So for 5 minutes, first 5 minutes of each day, we want to repeat the idea. And in the shorter practice periods today, we want to continue to what? Repeat the idea for today. This repetition helps what? Us in our what? Mind training. And we've probably all noticed that all of us have been somewhat inconsistent in, applying the ideas as we've been instructed, but don't let that be a roadblock. We're going to look past that. That's not as important as us staying the course. Okay. We're here today and that's all that matters. We're here in this moment and that's all that matters. So today we're going to what? We're going to take time out to focus on the one idea. I am one self united with my creator. So let's try to dedicate 5 minutes an hour to closing our eyes and really thinking about what this means to you. I am one self, united with my Creator. Meditate, contemplate that idea. It has what? It has great potential to help us as we are reinstalling this new, as we are installing this new thought system over the old thought system that we had. That its propensity was to what? Spend all this time thinking about a self that it made. So all it takes is what? A little willingness on our part. A little willingness to focus in each hour on this idea for today. That's our exercise for today. And so when we miss it, on any given day, it's only a mistake. It's mistakes what can be corrected. So we just remind ourselves of what our commitment is. So we want to begin our practice periods today with this assurance offered to our mind with all the certainty that we can give. So when we start our contemplation today in our practice periods, we want to say to ourselves, I am one self, united with my Creator, at one with every aspect of creation, and limitless in power and in peace. That's our idea. That's our place of meditation and contemplation today. I am one self, united with my Creator, at one with all aspect of creation. All aspect of creation has to do with what? All aspect with that which God created, which would be what? All other human beings, because that's what God created. And limited and limitless in power and in peace. So we are these unlimited beings full of the power of creation. That's our focus. And so as we remain in that meditative, contemplative state, we're going to remind ourselves that what? We are one self, one shared self. So repeat it as often as you can, remember. So we say, we're going to sum up the lesson for today by saying this. And I'm just going to read it just like it is. It says, you are one self, united and secured in light, in joy and peace. That's who you are. That's who I am. That's who all humanity is. This is not just for the people that are studying this course. Remember, the Course in Miracles is not a religion. This is not a religion. This is a course in miracles. We decided to take this course as a help, to help us what? To train our minds to think along the line of reality. So it's a course. This is not a religion. But what the course is teaching here are universal principles that we all must learn. So it's a required course. Only thing is that what we can determine when we take it, but we don't determine the curriculum or the content. In other words, the things we're talking about here, everyone has to learn at some point. Everyone. So it says you are God's creation. Here it uses the word son, but I'm substituting it to say you are God's creation because this is gender specific. We're going to transcend the gender because we know there is no gender in God. So we say you are God's creation, one self, meaning that this creation is a shared one being. It's not multiple being. God only created one thing, was him, and that was himself. And he called it what? I am. It's a shared self. He says what? You are one self with one creator and one goal. And that goal is to bring awareness of this oneness to all minds. And remember now, all minds are joined. So as you bring the remembrance of this oneness to your mind, you are bringing this awareness of oneness to all minds, because there's only one. So you can see now that you have the capacity and the power to affect all minds by the way your mind is renewed. That's why it's important that you renew your mind. You don't know the gravity of what happens and the effect that you have on all humanity when you wake up. When you renew your mind, when you transform your mind, you now become what? You become an altar for all humanity. You become a priest for all humanity. It says it right here. It says, our goal is to bring awareness of this oneness to all minds. That true creation may extend the allness and the unity of God. So when we are in our right mind, the knowing of ourselves, embracing and accepting that we are the one self united with our Creator, we become this usable light to be one with God's plan for salvation for the entire world. We become that. And we become equal in God's role. That's where the equality comes. God hasn't called us to him to be slaves and servants. No. Or even in the sense of children. Well, God has called himself into himself. And we are that. To be equal with him. Let this mind be in you that was also in Christ, who thought it not robbery to be equal with God. That's what we're talking about here. We're what? Equal, equality means what? We have the one purpose. We share we share the same being. There is no duality. There is no division. There's no infighting. There's no house divided. There's only one. There's only one. It says, you are one self, complete and healed and whole. That's what holiness is. One self, healed, complete, and whole. That's why you'll hear me say, and you'll hear the Course say, you are the holiness of God, or you are the holy home of God. Meaning what? You are one with the one idea, the one reality. That's why you can say with all certainty, I am that I am. You can say that about yourself, the one self, not the self you made, but about this self right here that we're talking about, that's united with what? With his Creator. And it's not that we're separate from our Creator. It's just that we have allowed a mind that somehow gave its attention to an idea of separation, to fall asleep, and to dream of separation in fantasies and wild imaginings and in mind wandering. And we're bringing that mind back back to reality. That's all. That's all this process is. It's very simple. Nothing religious about it. It's only the right thing. It's only the right thing to do. It's only the right way to be. Without any judgment, without any condemnation, without any what? Without any sacrifices, without any requirements. We are on this journey to say what it is, what it is, never to be changed. It says you are oneself, complete and healed and whole, with power to lift the veil of darkness from the world. What? We have the power once we wake up to lift the veil. That's the veil of darkness from over the what? From over the sight of the world. That's what it means to be what? The light of the world. To lift the veil. These messages, these lessons are helping what? Lift the veil from our awareness. It says, and let the light in us come through to teach the world the truth about not only itself, but ourself, the one self. It says, you are one self in perfect harmony. Notice now, with all there is. The one self that we share is in perfect harmony. There is no what? Infighting. There is no wrestling. There is no doubt. There is no duplicity. There is no fear. There is no concern. There is no uncertainty in the one self. Outside of the one self is the opposite of the one self. But we know that in what? In truth, in love, in God, there are no opposites. So it would have to be illusions. It would have to be just illusions, hallucinations. All this is happening what? In the realm of our psycho, or in the realm of our psychological self. Our psychological self needs healing. It needs healing. Everyone talking about they want healing, they want peace. This is how it comes, in the knowing of yourself. This is the only way it comes. It can't be legislated nor negotiated. It can only be accepted as the real deal. So he says, you are oneself in perfect harmony with all there is and all that there will be. So we don't have to be concerned about anything surprising us. There's no surprises in reality. It says, you are oneself, the holy creation of God, united with your brothers and sisters in that one self. We all share the one self. United with your Father or your Creator in His will. So there's only the one will in complete harmony. So the self that we made that appear to have self-will, that's part of the illusion. It's part of the illusion. And so it says, feel this one self in you. Feel it. You can feel this. Not only can you know it, but you can feel it. In other words, he's saying what? You can have the direct experience of it. In your life, in this day, in this world, in 2022, you can experience the oneness that you are. Even as you what? Even as you ride your bike. Even as you drive to your workplace. Even as you play with your children. even as you watch television, even as you have conversation with your neighbor. Doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. I love golf. Even as I'm playing golf, guess what I'm doing? Guess what I'm doing? Even as I'm playing golf, I'm feeling into in those moments the oneness I have with the people I'm playing golf with. That's what I'm doing. I'm feeling into what the oneness I have with the game. So I'm taking all of this to whatever I'm doing. That's what we're saying. It's not, you can't, we're not going to find this place of peace in the things that we're doing. They're not there. They're in you. So when you wake up and realize that they're in you, we take these things to what we're doing. We take delight to what we're doing. I take delight to playing golf and fellowshipping with my brothers. I take delight to when I love to walk with my wife, and we walk several miles a week. And as we're walking, I'm feeling into the fellowship, the walking. I'm feeling into what observing the things I see, one with everything. When I'm doing these lessons, looking at this camera and talking to you, and we're doing this thing, I'm feeling into this. I'm having the direct experience of what this I am self is. I feel no separation between you and I. I feel it all. I feel what God is doing. And God says, son, I want you to feel what I feel. And I feel into it because I fully embrace the reality that I am what oneself, that I share the same being that God is. That I am the love that God created. That I'm to the praise of his glory, of her glory. And so this is not some wayward idea that we're talking about here. These ideas, they could appear to be a little abstract. But I'm not talking about the abstract. In God, there is no abstract. There's a direct experience in every moment, everywhere present. So regardless of what you're doing, or who you're doing it with, or where you're doing it, we take this one self into the experience. That's what being the light of the world is all about. You're not duplicitous. You're who you are all the time, everywhere. And it should be quite evident. It should be quite evident in your attitude. It should be quite evident in your your conversation. It should be quite evident in the love that you share with each other. Even if you run into a resistance where people may act unseemly towards you, the thought may even creep up in your mind that, hey, I don't like this person or that person, or, they're not, real nice. These thoughts going to come, but that's okay. Now you notice them. You don't react or respond to them maybe like we did in the past. But we realize that's just the made self that's maybe taking offense. But I'm not operating now the self I made anymore. Like Galatians said, I've been crucified. I've crucified the old self. Nevertheless, I live, not I, but what? The I am lives. They say Christ lives. I am that's living now. Where I take no offense, where I hold no grievance, where I only see the best in everything and in everyone, where I only see what the beauty and the reality in everyone and everything. See, so my embracing of this reality, it has impact on the whole world. And so what? And so he says, feel this oneself in you and let it shine away all your illusions, all your doubts. It's in the feeling of this stuff. It's in the direct experience that what it shines away all illusions, all that we have made of ourselves. It gets shined away in the love that we are what experiencing in the moment. It shines away what all doubt, all double-mindedness, all duplicity. Why? Because there's only the one self. It says this is yourself, the creation of God Himself, that is sinless, or I like to say innocent. We've heard that sin word so long. I just rather to use I'm innocent. Because people are already sin conscious, and when they hear the word, it only reinforces in them. So I rather use the word innocent. So it says we're innocent, and we're as innocent as our Creator, with our Creator's strength within us, and His love, or our Creator's love, forever ours, because it's all shared. It's like what? It's not even like a partnership, because that's duality. There's not a partnership. He calls it a kingdom. With equal ownership, equal everything. It's nothing but equality. See, that's why I said we have to be equal with God for any of this to be true. Because where there's no equality, there can be no oneness. There could be no fellowship. There could be no peace. There could be no relationship where there's inequality. It says, you are one self, and it is given you to feel this self within you. There we go, the feeling tone again. So this is what our feelings are for. These are what our emotions are for. This is what our all our 6 mental capacities are for, to feel into reality. But we have been using them to feel into what we made. And so our feelings and our emotions have been running wild against us. But we trained them to do that. So now we have to train our feelings and our emotions, our psychological engagement, to feel into our reality. That's what our feelings are for. To feel into the joy, to feel into the love, to feel into the peace, to feel into the security, the oneness, the certainty, to feel into everything that we're doing. To give out all in all into everything. For the purpose of what? Lighting up the world. For the purpose of what? Bringing this promise of God to every seeming separated part, every seeming separated created one. How much more purposeful can your life be? Or meaningful than your life can be? And so the search for meaning is no longer required. We know what our life is all about. And it has deep meaning, and it has good purpose. So you are good. You are very good. And you're very meaningful. You are very meaningful. There's not a job out here. There's not a career out here. There's not a situation out here that is more meaningful than the meaning that God has given unto you. But we bring that meaning to whatever we're doing, to whatever career we're having, to whatever job or business that we're having, or whatever we're doing. We bring that meaning to it. And we amplify who we are within that activity or event. So you are oneself, and it is given you to feel love forever yours, and to cast all your illusions out of the one mind that is this self, the holy truth that is in you, or that is you. So all doubt or fear, all illusions are what? Cast out. Do not forget today. Okay? Do not forget. We need not forget. Our help is needed. Our part in bringing happiness to all the world is much needed. We see the world in the direction that the world is going. And when we say the world, we're only talking about what? A false pretense or a false self that's operating on a false system. And we see this, we observe this. And so the world needs our help. And so all heaven looks to us in confidence that we will try today. So it says, share then in this surety, for it is ours. It says, be vigilant. Do not forget today. Do not forget what? I am oneself, united with my Creator. It says, do not forget today. Throughout the day, do not forget our goal. Repeat today's idea, I am oneself, united with my Creator, as frequently as possible, and understand each time that we do this, someone hears the voice of hope. Wow, why? Because we're all connected. We're all connected. Because we all share this one self. And stirring of the truth within their minds, the gentle rustling of the wings of peace. So each time we repeat this idea, we are affecting all humanity. It says our own acknowledgement that we are one self, united with our Father, is a call to all the world to be at one with us. To everyone we meet today, be sure to give the promise of today's idea and tell them this. It doesn't mean that you go up to people and tell them. You don't have to. Remember, bodies are what? A false illusion. It's the mind that needs to what? Know. And so I can speak to every mind from sitting in this chair around the world. In fact, I'm going to show it to you. So this is what I say to the world. You are one self with me, united with our Creator in this one self. I honor you because of what I am and because of what my Creator is, who loves all of us because we are all one. And each time I say that, and remember to say that today, I'm impacting the world. I'm reminding myself of the oneness that we all are, of the one shared being that we all share. United with what? United with the one God that is everything. And so we have need of nothing. We are everything. God made it that way. And we remain what? As God created us. That's why we can say we are indeed the holy home of God, meaning there is no other option. There's no other option. We are the holy home of God. That is the truth. That is true always. That is the truth that's unalterable. That is our reality. This one shared self. I am this one shared self. You are. We are this one shared self united with our Creator. And with that, I'm going to rest my case for Workbook Lesson 95 out of A Course in Miracles. This has been so wonderful, so needful, so important to our journey of transformation. Thank you for being with me today. And as you go out into your day, remember, as often as you can, it says what? Can we give 5 minutes to the beginning of each hour to remind ourselves we are one self? Doesn't take a lot of energy. Just what? Take a commitment, and then we focus. Because every time we remind ourselves of that, what? We're turning our focus what? To the light. We can do this. We can do this. All right. Love you so much. Gonna go out the same way that we came in. With this intro. So on tomorrow, we'll be looking at lesson 96 and continuing our study on this oneself. All right. See you tomorrow. All right.